we are here to talk about state of consciousness, and I guess the first question: what was it about the script and particularly the character of Stephen that got you interested?
It was just as a script, it was very compellingly written. It was a page turner. I didn't know where it was going or what was going to happen, and it was one of those kind of puzzle box films to where I really, you want to know what's going on and what the solution is at the end in a way. And I really like kind of psychological mind-bending films like Memento and Inception and The Matrix and that's a genre that I like, and in the kind of psychological noir kind of vibe. And I really liked the director, Marcus Stokes. He was a really cool, intelligent guy who was just a lot of fun and had a lot of fun to work with. And he really was the right guy for this production because we had so little shooting time to shoot so many scenes. We shot it in Italy and in Guatemala. So, Marcus was kind of perfectly tailored because we would have scenes where we would have massive scene to shoot. We would have like sometimes like 20 minutes. And it would be like mentally, even I've made a lot of stuff. I was like, there's no way we can do this. Like this is impossible. But Marcus was so good. I was like seeing him in his element. It was like move the camera here, keep the camera rolling, flip the camera around. Like he like handled it and he got everything he needed every time. It was really pretty impressive to see. Afterwards, I was like, Marcus, you're a beast.
Yeah, and Stephen's kind of like many of your more recent roles in that he's a somewhat conflicted character. He's neither good nor bad. You can make a case for either. Why is it important for you to explore these characters that are giving a more shades of grey portrayal of man?
Well, I don't know, if I consciously necessarily sought out a role that had those kind of qualities. It just sort of happened to be that that was the script that I was sent. And I like the idea of the morality of the idea of the state brainwashing people. It's like, who's worse? The big brother state that sacrifices a certain part of decency and morality and humanity to fix people, or the bad people who are just broken to begin with. So it was kind of like an interesting philosophical inquiry in that way, where and the film, the way that the film ends, that end scene, it's kind of like kind of comically satisfying in a weird way, because as an audience member, there is some relief that the brainwashing necessarily it doesn't work, that you can't do that there is like a certain soul that people have that can't just be reprogrammed or erased. And I think that, like, as an audience, my instinct was people will like that. Like, I almost think people would rather have him be who he is than have the state kind of play God in a way.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's that whole, like fate, is fate predetermined or is it up to you to decide? And it's kind of playing with that in a way as well. Can you really control somebody, or is there something, like you say, the soul or something inside there that will always push through that?
Yeah.
And State of Consciousness also, it's a film that it skirts the boundaries of horror, of sci-fi and thriller, and it does it like, in a really interesting way. Once he's Stephen's there for this experiment, you think, okay, I'm in a sci-fi film, but then it's not quite that. And there's then like brings in like threads of crime and things, and kind of noticed a pattern, I guess, probably since around about you did Autopsy of Jane Doe, that you seem to be taking on a lot of these, darker darker scripts, that do explore these sort of more nuanced ideas. What do you think it is about genre movies that makes them, so compatible with these sorts of topics?
Mm, I think that people are willing to watch a lot more kind of extreme stories when they're watching genre films. There's a certain you're able to just kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit more than in certain movies and just kind of go with the story. On certain films that are kind of like super, reality based drama kind of thing, there's a little bit less suspension of disbelief. This one is like you're watching a movie. You're watching a movie with a big fat M at the front of it, and I think that there's a when that, I think you're willing to look at some of the kind of like crazier, darker themes, and in a slightly um in a way that you can kind of get more entertainment out of it than I think like if this was like a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of drama, you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. But because there's a certain genre crime element to it, there is a lot of dark humor that is kind of peppered throughout the film. And that's something that I actually thought really worked when I would see it. It was, certain scenes where you see how Stephen is, even when Stephen wakes up from the hospital and he's like, I've been here for, 3 months or 6 months or however many months it is. And then they're like, what's wrong with this guy? And then he backpedals, there's a little bit of comedy in the way that he backpedals. And, to me, it was finding those moments that was actually pretty fun to like kind of find some like comedic beats within this kind of more serious setting.
And State of Consciousness isn't the only film you've got out this weekend. There's also Prey, in which you have to survive, the in the African sort of deserts with, gunmen, lions, all sorts. I guess, these projects couldn't be more different. Is variety something that, you're keen to always make sure that you're doing something different?
I mean, nobody has more fun on a film set than me. I'm so grateful and so lucky that I get to do what I do for a living. And each one was a different adventure. And that's one of my favorite parts about getting to make films is just like getting to meet new people and work with different crews and actors and go to different countries and see crazy sites like the Volcan de Fuego in Antigua in Guatemala where we shot. There's like a volcano literally at the city, like next to the city that erupts like 20 times a day. I mean, it was definitely the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Was this volcano exploding, and I mean, it was incredible. So I just love, I love making movies and I'm super grateful to be able to do what I do for a living.
I've just noticed that you're wearing a Zephyr t-shirt.
Yeah, I got the Zephyr.
Which kind of brings me on to my next sort of question. As somebody, I sort of followed your career from The Dangerous Lives of Altar Boys, and with Girl Next Door is 20 this year somehow, and Dogtown is 20 next year. These films still have, they felt really special at the time, but I think they're still special, and they've got a fiercely loyal audience, but they're still finding new audiences today. What do you think it is about those two projects in particular that connects with people so hard?
I think that they're both kind of timeless the way that they were sort of made. They don't really feel like super of any particular era, even though obviously, Dogtown's like 70s. There's still young skaters today, and there's young people are the same, this generation or whatever. So I think that there's a certain relation to that. And I mean, I think it's really cool I've been able to be involved with certain films that have had some kind of lasting power. I think that's definitely an honor and a privilege to have been in a few films like that.
Yeah, I mean, If there's any film that I could sort of like Last Action Hero a ticket into, it would be Lords of Dogtown. It just seems like a nice like vibe film to just go and hang out in for a while.
Lords of Dogtown was probably the most fun I have ever had making a movie because it was like you're hanging out with your buddies, you know, these guys, we all became good friends. We're skating around, we're like playing the Z Boys, and we have got this like long hair, and we're just doing tons of skating and surfing. And I mean, to call what I did there like a job is like laughable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know that like Catherine Hardwicke sent you all to like surf and skate school. Is that something that you've kept up over the years?
So during the pandemic, I started skating again. I was like a little bit out of shape and like didn't want to go hiking or running, so I was like, "Oh, I want to like just start like skating for cardio." And then I started doing tricks. And then I like realized I was like better than I was when I was even younger, which was hilarious because that's not a testament to like what an amazing skateboarder that like I am. It's sort of like what a bad skateboarder I used to be. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh wow, I can like kickflip the stage at Courthouse now. Like I couldn't even do that when I was younger.
And the the other film that I sort of grew up loving was The Girl Next Door, which felt very different to the other teen movies at the time. You know, there was American Pie and Road Trips were really popular, and The Girl Next Door was very much a throwback to like Risky Business and 16 Candles. Was it its difference that sort of made you go, okay, I'll do this film?
Yes, and you know, Girl Next Door is actually very unique in the sense of very rarely in those types of kind of teen movies do they ever actually cast like a 17-year-old, let alone one that looked as young as I did at the time. So I mean it really looks like I'm like a freaking kid in that movie. Which is kind of cool. And I think that that's part of the lasting power is it's like you see so many movies where, you know, it's like someone in their like late 20s playing like a senior in high school and you're just like that's just so not the way seniors in high school are, you know? So I think that there's a part of that, just the fact that I actually was in high school, where you're like, yeah, I believe he's in high school. Superbad did a great job of that too.
Mhm. And I guess that sort of the career that you've all had from this, you've got Paul Dano, who's obviously, in the Batman and things, Timothy Olyphant, Alicia, yourself, you've all managed to have these you know, great careers. And it all sort of started with, I guess, what some people would look down on, just another teen movie.
Yeah, and Olivia Wilde is in The Girl Next
Yes,
Door too.
yes. She's like briefly, and she was the one that I was tripping up on. Yeah, she's literally a supporting, tiny character, and now, she's, directing and everything. It's
Baller.
just
Yeah.
yeah, a great project.
I think she was working for Mally Finn, the casting director at the time, or she was like assistant to Mally or something, and and then yeah, I got this cool part in the movie.
Yeah. And I guess throughout your early stages of your career, you were able to work with some of the best in the industry. You got Jodie Foster, Heath Ledger, Sean Penn, the Wachowskis. That must have been like at that point in your career, sort of like while you're still like a sponge and learning. That must have been such a good experience. Was there anybody that sort of stands out as particularly teaching you something that you've kept to this day?
Um, each I feel like different directors, they all kind of have taught me their own sort of unique lessons, you know? Like with the Wachowskis, I began to appreciate, you know, micro detail and like the nuances of moments because they're so detail oriented and they're so language um oriented in a lot of ways. And so I was able to like really appreciate that. And then someone like Ang Lee, you know, on Taking Woodstock, he was like he was like almost like a psychologist. Like he was like sensei. Like you would like really talk through the psychology and the motivations of your character and like really come to like a firm understanding of who you were playing with Aang. And Aang was amazing. I mean, he's really amazing. And but I don't even want to single anybody out. There's been so many great directors. Oliver Stone. I remember I did a scene with Oliver Stone in Savages, and Oliver was like, it was like my first one of my first scenes, and Oliver was like, cut, and he's like, Emile, come on outside. So I like go outside, and I'm wearing like biker shorts, and like I look like a total dork. And he's like, what's going on, Emile? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a little stiff right now. What's going on? And I was like, really? Like, what? And it was kind of funny. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Just try to, like, I don't know. And then we went back in, and I was kind of like pissed off. And I like just threw the script out like for the rest of the day and just was doing like whatever I wanted. And he loved it. And it was kind of funny because I think like Oliver, you know, he has a tendency like when you hear actors talk about working with them, like he'll challenge those actors and then they like over deliver. You know, there's the famous story in Wall Street where like he just rips Michael Douglas and just tells him, you know, he's just like that you're not the guy, like this speech, I don't believe anything about you and this and this. And then, you know, he just didn't take him seriously. And then Michael Douglas shows up and he gives the greed is good speech and he just like nails it. And then they finished it and he just like looked at Oliver like, fuck you.
In addition to into acting, you also do music, and I think I'm right in saying that you managed to sneak a Hirsch song into the end credits of State of Consciousness. How did that come about?
We had made a song called Plugged In, me and this Frenchman guy, several years ago now. And the film, it needed an end song, and that song was like weirdly perfect for it. I mean, it was like it wasn't written for the movie or anything, but like the lyrics, the title, and the kind of the tone of the song, it kind of just worked. It kind of synced up um, in a nice way. There's something a little funny about the song too, and the ending of the film. There is a little bit of dark humor right at the end, right at that ending of the film, and it kind of, I think, kind of dovetailed with that nicely.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess sort of my final question, other than being a nice birthday present for yourself, why should people take their time out and go and watch either State of Consciousness or Prey this weekend?
I mean, they're two very different movies. If you like, the genre of like a survival movie, like The Gray or Ghost in the Darkness or, that like exotic survival thing. I like movies like that. That would be a good one. And then State of Consciousness is more, if you like psychological mind benders, like the best movies of the genre are, Inception and Memento and The Matrix. And it's like it's something in that solar system of movie, you could say, So I like both of those different genres.
Well, I wish you best of luck with both of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, just I have to say, Autopsy of Jane Doe is just so good. Um,
Oh, that was a dark movie to make.
I
That
worked
was
for I worked for Lionsgate UK at the time when it got released, and I had to screen test it before the premiere. Um, and it was me and an engineer, but the engineer doesn't do horror films, so he left me. So I was there at like 7 o'clock in the morning in a dark, massive theatre watching Autopsy of Jane Doe on my own. And yeah, that's a lot of film for that time in the morning.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be actually kind of scary, to be honest, I think. I mean, I remember when I got that script, I would like be at my house alone at night and I'd like open it up to like rehearse and like do notes and I'd like start like writing and then I would like literally be in a scene like reading it and like making notes and just like be so freaked out. I was like, I gotta just rehearse this during the day. But this is actually too scary to do at night. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the
I
only
am.
time the only time I've ever had that experience where it's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
I
had.
also I made the mistake. Sorry to interrupt you. I made the mistake when I was 30 on my 30th birthday. I was about to go to England to shoot the Autopsy of Jane Doe, and I went to the LA morgue to get a tour for research for the movie. And I don't think I quite realized just how thorough of a tour like they can give you there. I mean, I saw like hundreds of dead bodies, like hundreds, and like
Right.
multiple people being actively getting autopsied. Like it was super disturbing. So, you know, I was like just unsettled from then on out. Afterwards, I was like, was it worth it? Was it worth it for your craft to like traumatize yourself for the rest of your life?
I mean, it's a phenomenal film. I have some friends who live together, and they bought a little bell, and they would routinely prank each other in the middle of the night by like going and standing outside each other's door and just like dingling the bell because they
Oh
were both
man, that's
completely
so
freaked out.
mean.
Yeah, well, you've got to do that, I guess, sometimes with housemates. But this has been amazing. When I first started writing, you've kind of been at the top of my one day I want to interview this person list. And so this has been like really, really nice to actually tick that off the list. And the fact that you're wearing a Zephyr t-shirt, just the icing on the cake. So thank you. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna go and cry my child off of Minecraft.
All
But
right.
yeah, best of luck with the film, and hopefully we can chat again in the future on another project.
Yeah, would love to. Thank you so much.